All right. Well, thank you, Matt, and beautiful video. Oh my God, I can't believe all of that is procedural. It's incredible. The realism is great, and I'm just jealous I don't have the time to just live in CityEngine. There's so many other parts to Houseal Lavigne. We use it a lot. We use CityEngine on a lot of projects, but it's nothing that we're sort of consistently in. So it's yeah, envious to see the work that you and your team are doing. Um, when I reached out to Matt and let him know that I'd be happy to speak again at the CityEngine user meeting, I was kind of pulling together a collection of just odds and ends, and one of them being the Omniverse workflows that we do. And I was trying to build an application that I could share with the community that would simplify that. I hit a little bit of a roadblock building that app, and so it just pivoted a bit. And I'd like to just present this project that we wrapped up about 6 months ago. It's just received a special achievement in GIS award from Esri, and the folks from the St. Louis Development Corporation will be at the UC to meet Jack and receive their award this summer. And so I think it's a really awesome use of CityEngine, and proud to share it. And maybe when we get into the community chat, I can speak to some of the odds and ends. All right, so here we go. We are hired by the St. Louis Development Corporation. It's an independent economic development agency separate from the city of St. Louis. And their job is to um, basically handle the big economic development opportunities within the city. And so the city planning office and the mayor's office just sort of run the city, and the SLDC is charged with growing the economy. And the mayor had a state of the city address that she was giving, and they asked us to jump in and help them highlight some of the impacts that the SLDC was bringing to the city. Um, a little bit about us. Houseal Lavigne, we're based in the United States. We do work all over the world. Particularly our CityEngine projects have taken us across the globe. We're sort of known for a traditional planning experience, but we bring sort of a high tech or tech forward solution and a geographic approach to planning and design. And we work with cities, counties, regions, from little bitty sites to entire regions. We are an Esri Gold partner. Something we're proud of in 2023. There's I think it's about 4,000 partners in the partner ecosystem at Esri. Give you an idea, about 200 I think are gold or platinum. So we're in a pretty exclusive group there. But in 2023, we received an award at the Esri Partner Conference for being Esri's most innovative partner. And a lot of that was around our work in CityEngine in these digital twin spaces. And yeah, so we were hired to create a digital twin pilot project for the city of St. Louis. And so the Digital Twin Consortium has a definition of what a digital twin is, sort of the governing agency, if you will, of digital twins. And it's virtual representation of the real world, nothing earth shattering here. Um, but they're used, real time historical data to represent past and present. You can use it to simulate. Um, Esri has put some a little bit more definition on this. They talk about the role of GIS in a digital twin. And so they go on to say that a digital twin is a virtual representation of the real world, including physical objects. It blends the natural and built environment. I think one of the important things Esri says is GIS is a digital twin, and that's correct. A digital twin doesn't have to be 3D, but in the line of work that we do with CityEngine, it is most definitely 3D. And how our digital twins are being used, from visualization, as simple as it gets, just looking at what proposed developments might look like in the real world, virtually simulating and testing planning recommendations before real world implementations, to integrate real-time data, inform decision-making for urban services. An application we built in the Middle East was basically virtual real estate, so a virtual experience to buyers of tours of properties and development. And then we've even had the opportunity to work on some virtual tourism to enable people to sort of visit an area before they make an investment and fly around the world. So that's how our digital twins are being used. Back into St. Louis. So the SLDC had created something called the Economic Justice Action Plan. And there's this area in St. Louis. I don't know if you can see the mouse here. Hopefully you can. This word I'm highlighting on this map here, and you can see it goes from these lighter shades of green to these darker shades of blue. They call this the Del Mar Divide. There's a street in St. Louis that divides the city into north and south. And historically, the north side of the community, the north side of the city has not received the same amount of investment and attention that the south side has. And so they call this the Del Mar Divide. And so they did this Economic Justice Action Plan as an opportunity to start closing the gap, the wealth gap between north and south, strengthening these north side neighborhoods, expanding the tax base and growing the population. And key to that was this: they created these demonstration areas, and MLK Boulevard, Martin Luther King Boulevard here was one of the what they called the demonstration area, this corridor. And so they asked us if we could build a digital twin of this corridor. Give you an idea, this is downtown St. Louis, where you have the St. Louis Cardinals baseball team. The St. Louis Arch is there, beautiful riverfront. They're downtown. The NGA, the National Geospatial Agency, they're investing in the north side here. I think it's a $1.2 billion campus that they're building. And as a result of that, there's 4 projects that have been a direct response to the NGA's investment that they wanted us to highlight in this digital twin for the Ville, this north side neighborhood along the Martin Luther King Boulevard demonstration area. So it's about 4,000 residents here, 2,000 jobs, and you can see the median home value is $55,000. It's not a lot of money. 40% of the lots are vacant. All the green area you're seeing in this neighborhood, these are where homes used to be. This was a fully built out urban neighborhood. It's suffered from disinvestment. Buildings have been burned down, torn down, and have not been replaced. And with the investment of the NGA here on the right side of the screen, bringing that sort of as a major catalyst into the area, and then 4 smaller catalytic projects within the Ville neighborhood. They wanted us to help them illustrate how this neighborhood could transform. So we started the project off with a walking tour. You can see what some of these buildings look like, missing the back facade. This is the Ville neighborhood, but there's also these great old structures with good bones. This is Marshall School on the left, Sumner High School on the right. One of the things we do whenever we start a digital twin project, we run through this presentation with our clients. It just kind of helps them. We need them to get on board with procedural modeling because we can't 3D model thousands of buildings. So we take a procedural approach. So we explain to them what procedural modeling is. No need for an explanation with this audience. We do also run through what we call our LODs. So 1, just simple masses. 2, we're starting to segment out the building roof forms to get different shapes. 2.5, we're adding things like spires and mechanical units, things that kind of bring a little bit of realism, especially from an aerial perspective. 3 is just that texture geometry, like the cereal box where we just sort of texture map sides of buildings. And we get to 4, we introduce physics-based materials, and it's really 3D construction. So you can see the light reflecting off of these buildings here because the glass is behaving like glass, because in CityEngine, we're constructing glass windows. And so you can see the difference between these two. One is, this is very flat, just taking a texture and applying it to really just these objects. And this one, it's full reconstruction of those buildings. And then if we have to, we can do some manual modeling. For that, we're using Rhino, Blender, SketchUp, whatever we have to do to get it done. But the other thing we show them is that the streets, we're not going to make 3D models of every single street within the community. So we take a typology approach. We identify, how many different types of streets exist within that community. And then we build out the typologies that we then apply broadly to the study area or city. And so once they're on board with that is when we sort of jump in. We had cross sections. There was a neighborhood planning group that had done a lot of work, and so they identified with the streets what they wanted it to look like. And so this was a video we put together for our staff to kind of a little staff brown bag to show the other people in Houseal Lavigne what we were up to. But we took those streets and we created typologies for them. This was a rule I showed, it would have been my very first CityEngine user meeting where we created, I think everyone knows the complete street rule. We sort of call this one incomplete streets. We find ourselves modeling these types of streets a little more often than we do regular streets. One of the things we added in this, it's very common for planners to kind of, you'll see I'm highlighting the design with. It's very common for planners to want to put 10 pounds of sugar in a 5-pound bag. And by that, it's like, we want a bike lane, we want on-street parking, we want 20-foot sidewalks, and the right-of-way is only so big. And so what we did is we created this design warning where if we're trying to over-design a road by adding too many amenities, it'll tell us if we've hit that threshold and it just turns it red. And so that tells us it's not going to be a realistic scale. And so what we have to do then is either increase the width of the street to meet that threshold or not. And you can see the design width in the bottom right there should have been 17 meters. By the way, I think all of this is going away with the introduction of the new streets. That's coming up later. I've had a chance to play with that. It's a huge improvement. I think it's going to change a lot of our workflows. And then within that street rule too, we introduced things like parkway furniture and trash cans and trees, and give our clients the ability to kind of space these out. We're doing intra and inter occlusion queries. So if a street light is sitting next to a tree or on top of a bench, one of them gets removed. So that was I think a real nice addition to the CGA grammar a few years ago. We also asked them for pictures of development that they liked. You saw those brownstones that were torn down or burned out. So we said, what are some good examples within the city? They gave us a bunch of street addresses using, Street View. We just sort of captured these. We then went to St. Louis and took photographs. And then we created some CGA rules to model the brownstones. You saw the condition of those initial brownstones. Boarded up windows, broken windows. So we created a CGA rule to create these dilapidated brownstones. And there's a simple flag in here, whether or not it's dilapidated. If I change it to disabled, we clean up the dirt on the texture. We rehab the windows. So to give an idea of what these would look like and if they were rehabbed. And so with this investment coming into the neighborhood, the thought is new development would come, people would be reinvesting in their property. And so what they wanted was a before and after. So we had to build a digital twin of the St. Louis neighborhood as it exists today with these disinvested properties. And then we had to show what the neighborhood could look like with these catalytic projects. And so for us, we had to sort of build the brownstones in their current shape, and then what they would look like. And then if someone, did a new brownstone, what would be a modern interpretation of that existing St. Louis style? And so just resetting some seeds, just the randomness in the rule to create these different models. We did a similar approach to row houses. Some of the photos they gave us were row houses, so this sort of same rule we can turn into a townhome. It adds some unit articulation, and then even along here, just a lot of different random building forms and styles. So all influenced by the precedents that were given to us by our client, and our job was simply just to turn those images into CGA. So inside of the Unreal Engine, all this was brought into Unreal to provide interactivity. Here's what a brownstone would look like, and here it is rehabbed. This looks like heading towards MLK Boulevard, where we're adding multifamily. I showed you pictures of the residential. This is a commercial building along MLK Boulevard, a photo we took. This is it inside of Unreal, and this is it sort of rejuvenated or rehabbed. And then even like things like here where we have infill opportunity for commercial, putting in some modern brownstones there. So these are before or afters. So I mentioned 4 catalytic projects. You have the Sumner High School. I don't know if I have the numbers right, but I think it has a capacity for 1,000 people, 1,000 students. And I think right now their enrollment is about 150. So because of all the disinvestment in the neighborhood, there's not a lot of kids, but it's a historic Northside high school. A lot of famous St. Louis people have come from here, from the likes of Tina Turner, Arthur Ashe, and the Arthur Ashe Foundation was giving Sumner High School money to redo their tennis facility. Arthur Ashe is a African-American tennis player, and his foundation was giving the high school money to redo their tennis courts. The Killark site was an old manufacturing. This was something they were turning into a learning facility for the community to train them for high-tech jobs. They were going to call this the Monarch Learning Center, and it's a little bit more on that in a bit. You have the Marshall School, which is John Marshall, one of the founding members of the U.S. Supreme Court. There was a developer that wanted to turn this building into condos. And then lastly, we have Rankin Community College here that won a very competitive grant, to do advanced manufacturing on the remainder of this site. And so these 4 catalytic projects they wanted us to highlight in this digital twin fly through for the mayor. So what we did is we did a flight path. The red line is showing the flight that we would fly this camera through, and the blue was our study area. And so we worked through our client to get this done. So inside of CityEngine, you'll start seeing kind of all these rules put to action. I mentioned we're going to fly a camera through. One of the things we sort of thought of as we were working on this was we knew one of the facilities was called the Monarch Learning Center, and we thought it would be good, instead of a camera or a pedestrian, maybe we turn the playable avatar into a butterfly. And so what we did is we attached essentially a butterfly to the camera controller in the Unreal Engine, and a butterfly is going to fly through the city. And we built a giant collision sphere around the butterfly, and as the butterfly intersects with parcels is when we activate the change. So inside of CityEngine, you can see how we kind of dropped these new development in and applied the rules. And if I just kind of generate it all. So this is the entire neighborhood. This is over by Sumner High School. And then this is the video that we delivered to the mayor for her State of the City. So there's the Arthur Ashe tennis and here's our butterfly. And again, this butterfly has this giant collision sphere around it. And when it intersects with any vacant parcel or parcel that's been disinvested, we change the mesh. Little trick we used on these townhomes, we basically scaled them to zero height, so they're flat as a pancake, and we tuck them underground. And as the butterfly hits that parcel, we raise them up 10 centimeters so they're above the grass, and then we expand their scale back to 100%. And so it gives this appearance that they're kind of growing out of the ground, but it's really just a scaling effect. So this is the AMIC building, that this advanced manufacturing facility that they're building with the grant money. And then lastly here, the butterfly is going to fly down MLK Boulevard, heading towards the Monarch Learning Facility. And that's the last site. And then the butterfly will sort of return home, passing through the rest of the neighborhood. So this was a big success. The mayor unveiled it at her State of the City presentation last spring. We've been in continuous contact with the city. They're thrilled. There's a few more pilot projects they want us to tackle before they move on to a citywide 3D model with this capability, that they're able to kind of see what the north side is going to look like as the economic justice master plan takes hold. So with that, thank you, Matt. Thanks for the opportunity. Hope everyone enjoyed it, and be happy to take any questions if there's time. Or
I just had a question regarding this project. So first of all, kudos. I mean, I love the idea with the butterfly, because it's like, it's really elegant, it's really warm, it's a very nice touch for especially if it's linked to revealing the new designs or the new proposals. I have a question there. So I've been some time ago involved in some little bit of consulting, and something that is, you could say, it's a bit similar in the sense of densification, but where the intent was not to actually build as kind of an investing in specific parcels, but to actually, at the level above, to think about changing the zoning laws, and making things, or like, so that the zoning laws would be reworked so that you can take little snippets here and there and actually build something that is more sustainable in general. So it's like optimizing here and there. Which would allow, in that context, to actually take, instead of just individual parcels that have just given zoning laws, to actually start combining lots or parcels into something that is bigger, that could potentially give per area in total maybe a little bit more green space, but maybe a little bit denser packed, or multi-story buildings or something like that. Was so kind of the building typology that is proposed is kind of very similar in the style of what was abandoned. So I see that the risk of people pulling back because of the investment in the future could be similar, because it's a similar typology which is rebuilt. How is this addressed?
yeah, good question, Matt. So the all of the work that we do as a urban planning firm has to happen in the context of the market. I can remember working on a project, and I'm talking a city that is 60 miles west of Chicago, like cornfields, and the mayor there was under the belief that the reason that there weren't high rises was that their zoning only allowed buildings to go 30 feet. And we sort of said, well, while that may be, there's also no market for high rises out this far. And so a couple of things. One of the things that I didn't talk about, when we decided to use the row houses versus the individual brownstones, we did that on where the SLDC, or it was either the SLDC or someone else had parcels under the same ownership. So if we saw an opportunity to consolidate parcels based on ownership, we took it. So that was just a simple GIS where we looked to see if two parcels were adjacent to each other that were owned by the same entity, to merge them. And then so those larger parcels then became candidates for the brownstones and row houses. If there were little tiny one-offs that were vacant but were still individually owned, then we just decided to either rehab them or put on a one-story brownstone. With regard to the product inside the neighborhoods, we have to deal with, it wasn't all disinvested. There's still people living there, and so while a house or a street may have 10 vacant parcels, there might also be 10 people living in those, and so we had to think about neighborhood compatibility. And so what we have seen in other parts of St. Louis, and particularly the north side, as its sort of investment has come out from the downtown, is I guess a modern interpretation of the classic, what they call a St. Louis brownstone. And so in the neighborhoods, like in the pure residential areas, we went with that, and that's what we were asked to do. But then along MLK is where we really started to introduce density. So those mixed use buildings, historically, those were one-story commercial buildings. We went to 4, 5, 6-story multifamily buildings along that commercial corridor.
Very cool. There's a question which came in, so let's go in this direction. So it's from David Kosowski of Esri Canada. Have you found that visual CGA? So I'm gonna direct this to you, Devin. Have you found that visual CGA helps in any way with improved workflow, specifically around building in capabilities to create form variations and the ability to reuse rule parts?
And this is like a confession time for me. I've never used Visual CGA. I just get in and start coding. So I can't even.
Nothing new with old age, right? Nothing new.
Yeah. Sorry, David. I know they've asked me to start exploring it, but I don't know. I find it quicker just to code it out.
I mean that's the perfect thing that we can discuss later on in the community discussion, right? And we can bring more people in also with camera and microphones. Yeah. Any more questions coming in right now for Devin? I don't think so. Sweet. Yeah,